Charity Superbike round 6. Few spots of rain out there. Hopefully, though, we're going to get a clean start and a 20-lap race in the company of James Whittam and Jack Burnacle.
So the weather just once more playing its part here. We've had fabulous weather at Thruxton, rather like Sir Malcolm Campbell did on Pendine Sands when he first went at 150 miles an hour back in 1925. The first turn here at Thruxton's named after him. And after that, we've got Sir Henry Seagrave, who did the 200 miles an hour for the first time in 1927 in his Sunbeam. And Sir John Cobb, who eventually raised it to 350 miles per hour in 1938. That is the world land speed record. And those guys all have bends named after them in this complex we're looking at. In this, the fastest short circuit on the calendar anywhere in the world, actually, after Shaky Burns' astonishing performance yesterday in qualifying. Can Shaky do the double here? Can he even further open out that championship advantage? At the moment, he has 181 points, and of course, a commensurate number of podium points ahead of Leon Haslam on 155. Jason O'Halloran is in third place. Dan Linfoot still in there in fourth, ahead of Michael Laverty, who's now into the top 6. Richard Cooper still hangs in there. Christian Idden has lost out and drops out of that top 6 and is now only 4 points ahead of James Ellison. Peter Hickman and Luke Mossey are in that top 10. 11th place for Tommy Bridewell, ahead of Glenn Irwin, both of them showing form in the first race, as indeed did Lee Jackson. John Hopkins and the E-Pay Me Yamaha are absent. Danny Buchan in 15th place, ahead of Stuart Easton and Billy McConnell. This is what the grid looks like for race 2 of the MCE British Superbike Championship. Shane Burns' Ducati ahead of Jason O'Halloran's Honda and Billy McConnell's FS3 Kawasaki, showing how fast McConnell was before his rear tyre wore to the canvas. Michael Laverty, James Ellison and Leon Haslam are on the second row of the grid. Good starting position for both of the Kawasaki's now. Luke Mossey, Glenn Irwin and Richard Cooper are on the third row of the grid. And fourth row, Tommy Bridewell, Lee Jackson and Yuichi Kianari. Good to see the 3-time champion back there. And the start has been delayed. We can see some rain flicking onto the windows of our commentary position, and the start has been delayed.
When I was running back to the booth, actually, I just thought there's a little bit too much of a spot of a rain coming down now. And in fact, as I just came off the grid, I got that little bit of a smell that you learn to kind of recognise where it means water is actually affecting the tarmac. It's a weird smell, but you do get used to it. And I definitely got that whiff as I came off the grid. And that means
I haven't seen you run for a while. It's not something you do a great deal, is it?
Why would I?
And as you can see, it's not a thing that quite a few of these people do as they hurry back to the grid. So the grid gathers once again. The rain spots gather on our camera lens out in the country there. That's just beyond the first complex at that right-hander as they go out into Seagrave and out into the country.
It's not going to do that much, I'm fairly convinced. You know, there's no bit of the sky darker than any other, and it's been trying to do this most of the day now. We've had a couple of occasions when it's just spotted, but to me it's not going to do that much. Don't quote me on it though. But when we're underwater in 10 minutes.
There doesn't look to be any reason, for example, to change onto wet tyres.
No, it certainly isn't wet enough for wets. They're just waiting to see what's going to happen now.
Do we know how many of these guys have gone for the soft tyre again, and any other guys might have changed? I mean, what has someone like Dan Linfoot, who doesn't seem to be able to get anything to last, gone for?
Well, Dan, I'm fairly certain, would have gone for the opposite of what he went for the one. I'm sure he will try his hand now with the softer of the options, a zero, knowing that it's going to go off, but...
And we are hearing that Dan Linfoot has changed to zero. This is James Ellison wondering what the weather's about to do. He really pulled a rabbit out of the hat with that brilliant first race performance.
He was angry.
The canvas in that one because they're moving that much, but let's just hope we have a real tight race.
OK, looks like it's going to be a good one. Let's get back to James and Jack in the commentary box.
And it looks quite bright here over Thruxton. Perhaps and hopefully it might be quite bright on Sunday the 14th of August over Hanger Farm, Lower Stanton, St Quintin, near Chippenham in Wiltshire, because that's when the 2016 British Masters Grass Track Racing Championship will take place. And if you haven't seen grass track racing and you've got nothing better to do that day and you're a local person around here in the southwest, then get yourself there and enjoy it. Terrific sport. This is a terrific sport. This is Shane Byrne, and he is looking very, very concentrated indeed prior to trying to make it a double race win here at Thruxton on the back of that race win earlier on. But as with the rest of the riders, hoping that this will go the full 18 laps, and therefore, James Whitham, increased potential tyre life.
Yeah, I mean, right decision to just hold off a little bit with the start of the race. It has stopped raining. It was raining a lot harder around the back, apparently, which was so brilliant decision. It's now full slick conditions, nothing much to worry about except for the tyre wear issues they had before, which were quite significant for some people, Jack.
It sounds like they were absolutely... It was interesting hearing Tommy Bridewell say that when they did that race simulation during practice, James, that it was a drop of 3 seconds instantly in one lap,
that's it, yeah.
Which was exactly what we saw happening to some of these guys in race one.
It's not the amount the tyres have gone off after sort of 15, 16 laps, or varying, depends on who you are, but it's the speed at which that happened. Within a lap, they've gone from doing 16s and 17 lap times to sort of 20s and 21, so incredibly quick drop.
That's why we couldn't quite believe what we were seeing on the timing screens, because it's not that obvious. You know what I mean? To the naked eye, you couldn't think to yourself, my goodness me, aren't they going slow? But suddenly the lap times were telling us they were 3 seconds slower instantly. We have 2 warm-up laps. Why 2 warm-up laps then, James? Is that just for the guys to get out there and get a feel for the conditions?
Yeah, I think just to give them a little bit better look at what's going on. Yeah, I have to say, race direction is pretty much second to none in this country. Everything about it, the medical kind of backup and facilities, the way that decisions are made for these riders. It's difficult as a rider to make the right decision sometimes for yourself if you're given that option. You know, I've heard in the past, years ago, you say, well, it's safe for everybody, let's go out. But it isn't. It's not like that. Some will always go out, even into, you know, mortal danger sometimes with weather conditions. And it's good to have somebody like Stuart Higgs and his crew and his team that make decisions that are kind of looking after the riders, you know. And I do feel we've got probably the best in the world at that.
One of the guys that we talked about, Danny Buchan there, by the way, on the Lloyd's British Motor Rapido Ducati, having a disappointing weekend so far. He's one of the guys who had to pull out of that first race, but it was good that we caught a word, or the boys did catch a word with Richard Cooper, because he's one of the bike number 47 there. He's one of the lads who does excel when conditions just get slightly unpredictable, and those are those conditions in which he won his first race of the year at Alton Park.
I mean, not just that, he's able to kind of take a risk, and it's a real calculated risk with Richard. When you speak to him, he's a really intelligent little kid, especially with his racing. He knows how the bike works, quite mechanically minded, and absolutely has the knack for knowing what he can get away with when it's not normal. And he's brilliant at that. He set off in that race at Alton Park on a sudden wet track that was clearly going to dry, but on slicks. So he's on absolutely the wrong tyres that then became absolutely the right tyres, and then did a really good job of it.
So let's check out the championship standings after race one. Shane Byrne 181 ahead of Leon Haslam on 155, Jason O'Halloran on 126. Dan Linfoot about fortunate to maintain his top 6 position, just 1 point ahead of Michael Laverty, whose 20 points leapt him up to 5th place at the expense of his teammate Christian Itten, who drops out of that vital top 6 showdown spot. James Ellison is the closest man to him, and then there's a bit of a gap of 14 points back to Peter Hickman and Luke Mossey. 11th place for Tommy Bridewell after that first race. Glenn Irwin in 12th, Lee Jackson 13th, and a lot of these guys, Irwin, Jackson, Buchan, McConnell, Seeley, had major problems with the rear tyres after looking very promising in the early stages and certainly the first half of race one. So it'll be interesting to see how things pan out for them this time around. The grid has Shaky Byrne once more on pole ahead of Jason O'Halloran and Billy McConnell. 2 Australians there on the front row. Michael Laverty heads up the second row from the 2 Kawasaki's of Ellison and Haslam. Row 3, Luke Mossey, Glenn Irwin and Richard Cooper. And row 4, Tommy Bridewell, Lee Jackson and Yuichi Kianari. And Jenny Tinmouth, we believe, is in pit lane with the third of the racing Hondas. There she is. We're talking to James Westmoreland there on the right-hand side, who is just lost by a fraction the lead in the British Supersport Championship. And Jenny not able to come out, probably due to crash damage after that first race get-off.
Yeah, single bike rule, and they couldn't fix it.
Tommy Bridewell having a quick word with his late brother Ollie before he sets off here on very much, as he mentioned, their local circuit. He's really only a few miles up the road in Devizes. He'd love to do well here. Look at the intent in Shaky Byrne. The body language says it all. The number 67, Beat Weiser Ducati, drives for the first turn, but is out driven by Jason O'Halloran, who gets the fire blade off to a beauty. O'Halloran leads it through. Michael Laverty tries to get through, and round the outside goes Shaky Byrne. A phenomenal move by Shaky, pulls him through into an early lead, and they all dive through into Campbell's. That is a frightening looking first turn, but everybody comes through unscathed.
Yeah, it is frightening from on bike as well, because it's such a wide track. There's so many lines going in there. Brutal overtake on O'Halloran by Shaky there. Really wanted to get to the front, did the four-time champ.
And he's only opened up a matter of about a dozen bike lengths almost instantly. Michael Laverty in second place on that blue and white BMW.
And you know, when conditions are a little bit sketchy, I don't believe they are now, but even in the back of your mind, you've got that little feeling that, ooh, it might just be a little bit slippy, right? A little bit of rain. It's amazing how Shaky Byrne is able, even at his age and his experience, and you'd think he'd be cautious, not so.
Disproving one of the theories that Ron Haslam had before we started.
Yeah, Ron was saying all that, and he's still dangerous now, is Ron. He's still take a risk.
And his son's right up there, running in about 5th place behind the men who got the early start. Dan Linfoot there we saw flick through the picture on Honda number 4, well downfield, as you would expect him to be at this stage. But Byrne leads it from Laverty, O'Halloran, McConnell. Haslam is 5th ahead of Ellison, Mossy, Cooper, Jackson and Tommy Bridewell. That's your top 10.
Where was Glenn Irwin? Expecting him, he's down in 12th. Expect him to make some moves forward. Really confident he was when I spoke to him before.
And as they go out into the countryside, then it's Shaky Byrne. Suddenly, actually, Michael Laverty's caught him. How did that happen? Michael Laverty goes through on the inside at high speed as they swoop through the left-hander.
Shaky's looking down there.
Oh,
there's
he's
definitely
not happy.
something wrong.
There's something wrong.
Yeah, and his oil coming out. He's having a look. Maybe his foot slipped off the peg, and that's always kind of concerning. You think maybe oil's leaking out, puts you off what you're doing. He's definitely had a look down at the left-hand side there. Maybe a gear shift issue.
Well, he certainly doesn't look as if he's holding back at the moment as they go left, as they go right. He almost.
He's not happy.
Oh no, something's going on.
Gear lever's broken. Gear lever's definitely broken. It's prodding away there. The bike wasn't changing gear. Yep, definite gear lever.
And suddenly, the man who was as red-hot a favourite as you could possibly get looks as if he's going to pull out of the race. Shaky Byrne's lost the gear lever. Paul Bird can't believe what he's seeing. He takes a deep breath, and it looks as if something's up with the gear lever. He's not able to select the gear he needs, any gear at all, by the looks of it.
Now look at the height of it. It's way up. Look, and it's dropped right down. It's definitely a gearbox issue, whether it's internal or external. I think it's external. It's the gear lever that's wrong, not the gearbox.
So they might be able to rectify it quickly and send him back out, James.
You have no chance.
Oh, okay. And the leader then is Michael Laverty, as we see what's happening in pit lane. They're examining what the problem is. Meanwhile, the leaders take off into the countryside. O'Halloran right in the wheel tracks of race leader Michael Laverty. So Michael Laverty, the 34-year-old Ulsterman, leads the way.
Yeah,
and Shaky Byrne is out. Shaky Byrne is out. So the biggest shock of the weekend so far. Well, Shaky Byrne is out, and that means instead of the possibility of a runaway leader, we have a real race on our hands involving Michael Laverty, Jason O'Halloran, Leon Haslam now up to 3rd place. He said there was a possibility of a rush. Wow, what happened then? That's at 175 miles an hour, James.
It is, and it's right. Just a little bobble we saw from Michael Laverty's Tyco BMW, and it's just when you're shutting off, you're grabbing the brake, everything's happening at once then. The back just moved. It didn't upset him unduly, I don't think.
God, it upset me.
It would upset me if I was sat where he was as well.
And so that O'Halloran lying in 2nd place. We've got at the moment with Ireland leading, Australia leading Smalley about 30 minutes outside Derby. on a former deer and wild boar farm, which is where number 91, Leon Haslam, is in residence.
Well, Leon and Ron and Anne and other Haslams all on site. Difficult to tell how many of the Haslams actually live there, because they never keep still long enough to count them.
And Haslam is right up there in the mix. So too Billy McConnell on that distinctive black and orange FS3 Kawasaki. And then, oh, these boys absolutely on it. We've got... Oh, this is shaky.
Yeah, that's him running really wide, having a look down. Yeah, he knows he's got an issue. Well, we reckon, me and James Hayden reckon it's possibly the short shaft of the gearbox come off the end, and it's, if it is, that's, I won't say schoolboy, it can happen, but it's a kind of £5 breakdown that's cost him the result there.
Luke Mossey has closed up right onto the back of the front four. James Ellison in 6th. His teammate Peter Hickman in 7th. Lee Jackson leading build-based BMW in 8th. Ahead. No, Bridewell's gone through, and Cooper's gone through ahead of Jackson. Jackson back to 10th. Dan Linfoot has got to 11th from absolutely nowhere, and he's ahead of Irwin and Christian Eden, another man who was way down on the grid.
Linfoot's the fastest man on track.
Oh, yes, so he is.
That's the whole footrest off now. That's the footrest and the whole gear lever assembly there. They've taken it off in a oneer. They'll have another sub-assembly with all that to put back on. But yeah, it's not complex engineering, but there's lots of it. Yes. There's lots of screws, kind of 6mm threaded bolts, and it's all held together quite in a complex manner.
It would be extremely complex to a DIY idiot like myself, for example. There's at the front, Michael Laverty still leads the way in spectacular style from Jason O'Halloran and Leon Haslam, with McConnell, Mossey, Ellison, Hickman, Bridewell all there behind. The bright orange helmet of Lee Jackson, very distinctive in the background, as we watch Peter Hickman, I thought was for a moment, was pulling a move on his teammate Ellison. Yes, he's nipped through ahead of that man, Tommy Bridewell. So Bridewell's Suzuki is at the back of that high-speed train. And then it looks to me as Jackson's regained, he's moved to 9th. Linfoot's got the better of Cooper. He's into the top 10. There's Linfoot, number 4, right on the back wheel now of Lee Jackson. So Linfoot, whatever his tyre he's got on, he's decided he's just going to have to go for it from low down on the grid to try and salvage some points after that fruitless first race.
Mossey looks a danger man to me. We've not seen him for a little while, but he's just getting on the back of the leading 3 now, I reckon.
And also he was very confident about that SC1 tyre. He felt convinced that it was going to benefit him in this race.
Yeah, Mossey's a funny kid because he does come across with real confidence and real kind of chest out stuff, but he actually isn't. He isn't.
He's absolutely terrified of becoming a father in a couple of months' time.
I tell you what, he's a good rider. He's Luke Mossey.
And he's got the better.
He's adjusting his brake. See, he took his left hand off and he was adjusting something above his clutch lever. That adjusts the right hand lever, the brake lever. So he must have felt he had an issue with the brakes there.
And it cost him a place because that gave Billy McConnell the opportunity to line him up on the brakes. And for people who think that folk who ride motorcycles must be mad, just bear in mind how calmly he did that at somewhere between 175 and 180 miles per hour.
Yeah,
James.
but I tell you what, it's amazing how much time you've got sometimes when all you've got to do is hold the throttle open and you're watching about you, and it is happening fairly quick, but you do have a little bit of time. You can look at somebody who's overtaking you, or you overtaking them, or you can. It's the only time in a lap. Once you're in the corners, you can't. You're feeling for grip. You've got a lot on your plate, but on the straights, yeah, you can.
And so we're at number 7, Michael Laverty leads the way. 2nd place, number 22, Jason O'Halloran. 3rd place, Leon Haslam for the JG Speedfit Kawasaki team, having a much better outing this weekend because all 3 of them are in the top 7 now, ahead of Bridewell. Linfoot now 9th, ahead of Jackson and Cooper. Irwin in 12th place, Iden still running 13th, ahead of Kianari. The last point scorer is Jake Dixon.
Linfoot still going pretty quick. As is Irwin, actually. Irwin's 3 or 4 places behind him in 12th.
But Michael Laverty doesn't mind that bump. That Tyco BMW twitches the same way each lap. And he's so late on the brakes to fend off O'Halloran.
It's because it's at the point where you're trying to line it up for that chicane, that club chicane. It isn't easy. It's a big curve. You're coming off a huge curve, not a straight. And you're hitting the brakes and you're letting off the power at the same time.
Tell you who's having a good ride, who's just flitted through the picture. Number 64, Aaron Zanetti, is running in 19th place. Zanotti, sorry, ahead of Stapleford, Seeley, Mainwaring, Smart, Buchan, Backland, Kennedy. He's got good people behind him on that private Yamaha.
Yep.
We're on the 8th lap of 18 as they scorch out into the country once more, drifting their way through that huge, fast right-hander that takes them from Goodwood through to Village.
And Aslam's just had a little look at Laverty going away now and made a move on O'Halloran. And Aslam's desperate, and everybody's desperate not to let anybody get away. Once you've got about a second and a half, 2 seconds around here, then you can make a break. Until that point, you can't.
Is this a question of Leon Haslam's heroic bravery overcoming any shortcomings with the Kawasaki? Because he's not been able to do anything like this the whole weekend. And now suddenly, in the thick of the race, knowing that he could retake the championship lead, in the absence of Shaky Byrne, he's absolutely burning his way through.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that, but also it's early on in the race. So remember, he did have tyre issues, did drop off a cliff, and so we'll see.
It's 2 laps shorter. That could make a fractional difference.
Yeah, it's going to make a difference to everybody. I'm sure all the riders will be pleased with that.
Look at Skippy McConnell, the 2014 British Supersport champion. That's Mark Smith-Halverson, who's taken all the problems with his team very calmly during the course of the weekend, as his team, as Leon Haslam's, I beg your pardon, James Ellison's crew chief, Chris, said, we got the calm Mr. Smith yesterday evening at the team talk. And so they worked their way through the problems, and it's working right now.
Remember, one of the men in that split race one we saw earlier, who did have a plan for the tyres wearing, was Michael Laverty. He managed it as well as anybody, I felt.
And Michael Laverty leading the way then. He won the opening race in Silverstone.
Check out Linfoot. Linfoot's up to 6 and he's making moves now on Hickman.
And here comes Dan Linfoot. Dan Linfoot in the yellow helmet there on that red and black Honda. Scorches up the inside of Big... Oh, no, he doesn't quite. He tries to go around the outside of Peter Hickman. That won't work yet. But certainly Linfoot has made a scalding series of moves through the pack from way downfield on the grid. In fact, I'm just trying to check where he was on the grid. It was somewhere ridiculous. Oh, he was in 28th place on the back row 10 of the grid. Yeah, the only person behind that row was a lonesome Howie Mainwaring Smart, and he cuts through inside Peter Hickman, so he's up now into 5th place.
And going quicker than the 4 in front of him.
Wow, so really impressive stuff so far from North Yorkshireman Dan Linfoot. I was asking him how the baby daughter was, and he said absolutely fine. I said, you'll be rushing home tonight. Oh, under orders too, he said.
But do you know what I think this will do him good? Lots of riders with families go better than when they didn't have families. Others don't want a family when they go racing. They don't think that's the way forward. But with Dan, I just feel that being able to go home and not concentrate on him or what's happened in the weekend and worry about it all week before the next meeting is going to be a really good thing.
His Honda's spitting impressive licks of flame out of that exhaust as he's going through Church there, the final right-hander before this huge launch down to the club chicane. And again, O'Halloran looks at that waving right leg of Leon Haslam.
Exactly. You've got to watch it when you're going up the right-hand side, the inside of that club chicane of Leon Haslam, because the leg sticks out a long way.
That's James Ellison, and then there's the next crew, which is led now by Glenn Irwin in 9th, Tommy Bridewell, Lee Jackson, Christian Hidden in 12th, Cooper back to 13th. So that's the huge second wave, fighting for precious points. Hidden, remember, on that blue and white Tyco BMW as he gets overtaken once again by the build-based BMW of Lee Jackson. Christian Hidden, still, of course, with that severed finger that has been reattached with a combination of stitching and a pin through it, is fighting to get himself back in that top 6. He needs the points.
I like your medical descriptions there. Oh yes, very technical there. We've stitched it on, sir, and then we've got a little bit of metal in there.
Well, a little bit of metal sticks out. He showed it to me. It didn't do my stomach a lot of good. This is Michael Laverty still leading the way. Look at Leon Haslam getting a full-blooded drift as they come out of Church. And with O'Halloran once again looking for that early move. And once again, so late on the brakes, that booking-weaving little man on the booking-weaving Kawasaki.
What's happened now is they've established, I think most of them in that leading group, that Michael Laverty isn't going away now.
Yeah.
They're still with him, and then he can kind of relax a little bit and put the plan back in action, really.
Did you see that that bright blue and yellow WD-40 Kawasaki nick through the chicane there? Josh Hook into the points for the first time, the young Australian, in his, you know, the first of his few races in BSB. We're already on the 12th lap of 18, James, so approaching two-thirds race distance. Michael Laverty, look at the huge undulations these guys are dealing with when they go out into the country. It's not ripples. It's almost like kind of motocross waves that they're going across.
Yeah, it's not bumps. It's dead right, undulations. It's really weird the way that the circuit undulates and works your suspension.
Linford is now ahead of McConnell, and he's looking at this battle ahead of him. He's in the yellow helmet, the second of those black and red Hondas.
Well, not only did Kylie tell him he got to come home, she must have told him, don't come home without some bacon, love. We've got 3 to look after now.
And they drop into that club chicane again. Michael Laverty, he doesn't mind them closing up at that point because he seems able to just ease ahead again.
I'm sure he does.
All right, perhaps he does. Oh, Danny Buchan, a frustrated Danny Buchan. He's had 2 DNFs now then on the Lloyd's British Moto Rapido Ducati.
Yeah, not happy with the handling, and if you've got a bike that isn't handling well, it is a scary old place. It's just because it's so quick.
Aren't they allowed to just pop up pit lane and have a word with the BYZ Ducati squad? They seem to have sorted out the Panigale quite well. Irwin's up to 9th now. Exactly,
but like I've said before, what setup works for one rider definitely won't work for the next. He's a lot bigger. He's, you know.
And there is looking now at Josh Hook, 24-year-old Australian from Taree, from the same place as, exactly the same place as the legend that is Troy Bayliss, the 3-time World Superbike champion. And it's good to see him getting that WD-40 Kawasaki in the points as we look back at the race for second place. O'Halloran looks as if he's been lining Leon Haslam up for some time to get underneath him in that right-hander. Whoa, and he gets it. He makes it stick. Coming out of Church, launching through Brooklands and up Woodham Hill. And here, Leon Haslam will be trying to move back up on the inside. Oh, and he does force his way through at the last possible second.
Yeah, he did, but it wasn't a bad move, that, from Leon. It wasn't like he went flying up the inside and couldn't stop it and ran the man wide. He didn't. He made the corner.
The lap times are still in the very low 16s, all of them on 16.1, 16.2. That's the top 4, and then 16.5 for Hickman, who's running 5th. And he's the second of the JG Speedfit boys. So this is a terrific 4-way quartet. And behind them there's a little gap, and then Hickman, Ellison and Mossy, 3 Kawasaki's are running together. They're ahead of Glenn Irwin, number 2, on the BYZ Ducati. Peter Hickman there, former plasterer from lives in Louth in Lincolnshire, is fighting to stave off his teammate James Ellison.
Yeah, Hickman really good on the roads at the Isle of Man particularly, and making as much of a career on the roads as on the shorts now. So he's been billed now as Britain's best all-round road racer, you know, the short circuits and the roads, and he hates it. He says it sounds like I can't do anything. He's seen a bit of a sort of jack of all trades, master of none kind of element to
getting a bit of opposition from Ian Hutchinson now, as Hutchinson recaptures his short circuit form.
Yeah, true.
And these 3 are now seem to be able to just hold the gap to Dan Linfoot. Linfoot now frustrated by the fact that his lap time's identical to theirs.
Yeah, and I think Linfoot's used his tyre. And Linfoot round here, because he's been sliding so much, he's absolutely brilliantly spectacular, but not good for the tyre.
And he's instantly lost half a second on that lap, James. Yeah. So luckily for him, they're on to the 15th of 18 laps. So let's hope that Dan's tyre doesn't completely abandon him at this stage of proceedings.
Oh, brutal move by O'Halloran there. I mean, cleaner than what you would expect at that point. That's really difficult to get it. I mean, you do it, but it's clean compared to most moves there.
And so Leon Haslam will now be lining up his some kind of ferocious counter-attack here, as once again, and Michael Laverty, how coolly has he led and governed this race so far?
Right, with 3.5 laps to go, this is the move. Look, drops it in, and yeah.
Well, he made that into a straight, didn't he, between the right and the left?
Yeah. Well, Harvey liked it. Oh, did he? It's difficult to tell.
and suddenly he's broken clear. Look at this.
Exactly. And I think Leon again. I think tyre issues.
Yeah. It could be. So we'll check out the lap times at the end of this one. Remember how drastically the lap times dropped off. We've reached the crucial 15 lap stage, James, where people have tested to this point to see how tyres would last. And as we cross the line, 16.3, 16.3, 17 and 17.3 for Haslam and Linfoot. They are really hitting problems now with grip. And
that's
Cooper.
Richard Cooper.
Richard Cooper, who needed the points to stay in that top 6. Remember, at the moment he's in a position, but only by 4 points. No, 2 points even ahead of Christian.
Yes, he's gone in, going down. I want to see what happened there. It's quite a weird one to end up there. Let's have a look. Oh, he's clipped a curb. He's just clipped a curb, but it's hung on long enough to send him round off on that tangent. Yep, get yourself out of there, Richard.
Yeah, he needed to do that, didn't he? So Laverty, O'Halloran seem to be the guys who are still maintaining the pace at the front. Oh, Leon Haslam through sheer teeth. Oh, and look at Glenn Irwin. Glenn Irwin showing that the tyres are lasting on the Ducati Panigale, the B-Wiser Ducati. He's right on the back wheel of Dan Linfoot. Linfoot's now got, look at that, 2 laps in which to fend him off. He's not going to be able to do it.
He can do it. You know, when he's opening the throttle, the bike's just going sideways for Linfoot, and there's nothing you can do, the most frustrating thing in the world.
So a terrific ride then by Glenn Irwin, making up for the early exit of his team leader, Shaky Byrne. He's pulled the B-Wiser Ducati through to 4th place. This, in his rookie season, his best result. And now then, Hickman and Luke Mossey, and possibly James Ellison, but certainly Hickman and Mossey are absolutely engulfing the black and red Honda.
Irwin's going quicker than Haslam as well, and we know Haslam's got issues with his tyre.
And as the boys begin to gang up on that, all the Kawasaki's now are like a swarm of green bees.
Oh,
whoa.
Here comes Ellison.
Ellison. Well, that was a major move by the couple. So, James Ellison, who was, he's carved his way through into 5th place, Irwin in 4th. And the battle at the front, Laverty had 0.7 of a second over O'Halloran.
I want to see how close Irwin is to Haslam. His last lap was it there? It is. And that's close.
And we're on the 17th of 18 laps, so he's got a lap and a quarter to do something about it.
He'll definitely do it, because he went a second and a bit quicker last time round.
Wow! Now this is something else for the perennial race winner in British Supersport in his rookie season in British Superbike. Glenn Irwin could finally nail himself a podium. This will make Paul Bird feel a little less bitter about Shaky Byrne's early exit, because his new boy on the block is through into 3rd place, and if he just holds his nerve and his calm for the final lap,
exactly. Haslam won't be able to go with him, because around these long sweeping corners Haslam has no grip left. Look, he's gone really wide.
What I mean is not to fall off.
Yeah, not to do that.
Remember,
he needs to settle down now, because he isn't going to get any further forward now, I don't think.
So he wants to just settle down.
He was a second quicker than O'Halloran last lap.
Yeah,
maybe,
that's what I mean.
Maybe.
He's thinking he can catch O'Halloran, so he has got the bit well and truly between his Ducati teeth. Linfoot's down to 8th place, but he could yet. Oh, his lap time is down to 1 minute 20.2. It's gone off the edge of the cliff. He's got 3/4 of a lap to survive.
There's O'Halloran. It's going to be close between O'Halloran and Irwin for 2nd place. And look, O'Halloran sideways. Look all the way around there.
And the smoke pouring off his rear tyre. There is the B-Wiser Ducati with Glenn Irwin, one of 3 successful racing brothers. His head down. He's the eldest of the 3 of them. Oh, look at O'Halloran. Absolutely. Well, he said it would be down to dirt tracking your way round and trying to make the most of that wearing tyre. But surely he's got enough here.
Yeah, you would think so,
but Michael Laverty, the man who won the first race of the championship, is going to take victory here in race 2 at Thruxton. He gets the Tyco BMW across the line first. How much does that mean? O'Halloran 2nd, 3rd place for an absolutely thrilled Glenn Irwin. Oh, Luke Mossey crosses the line and grabs 4th place from Haslam. Hickman 6th, Ellison, Bridewell. There's WD-40 Kawasaki's Josh Hook, and he's going to be somewhere up there. Hook crosses the line 14th behind Christian Hidden and gets 2 points for the team. Martin Jessup gets the final point in 15th for the Riders Motorcycles BMW team. And Michael Laverty congratulated as the race winner, and one of the men congratulated him. How pleased would Glenn Irwin be with that, James, and the Paul Bird team? I don't think Birdie can quite believe what's happened, to be honest. That is just a terrific ride. And Michael Laverty, well, James, you said exactly. Look at that. His last lap was a 16.7.
Yep.
He absolutely masterminded those tyres.
He did. Oh, he said he had a plan. He said they'd worked hard at it. They weren't bothered about a fast lap in practice. They just wanted to get a tyre at last, and that's, yeah, that is doing your own work.
So Michael Laverty then on that beautiful, distinctive red and emerald green helmet with a flash of yellow thrown in for good luck, has brought Philip and Hector Neal's Tyco BMW, the TAS Racing team, the team which, as Relentless Suzuki, he won the British Super Sport Championship for in 2007. And he's obviously, this is a man who's had his time in British Superbikes. He's had some successful days in World Superbikes. Look at British Superbikes. Look at number 4, Dan Linfoot. A little bit crestfallen, but that was a brave 9th place, James.
It was
a phenomenal race for about 15 laps.
Just complete damage limitation once it came to the last 3 or 4 laps for Dan Linfoot.
And the winner, number 7, Michael Laverty, a man who he came into British Superbikes in 2008 with the Relentless Suzuki team. He's returned to BSB after winning that Super Sport Championship. It was in 2010 that he finally won at Alton Park and Croft. Finished 4th in the series that year, but he's looking every inch. I do believe he was my pick as being champion this year, so who knows, it might happen yet. Look at Shaky Byrne congratulating Glenn Irwin, James. That's great team spirit there. And Stuart Johnston beaming the smile of a man who knew it would happen all along. That's Michael Laverty's crew chief there in the bald head and spectacles.
Good ride by Jason, that.
It was, wasn't it? He clung on to that 2nd place. And when you think of what, I don't like to harp on about it, but what happened to him here when his season finished last year, that was a brave ride. And then Glenn Irwin, good Lord, we've got 3 absolutely astonishing performances from these guys. Glenn Irwin there, you can't look at the laughing eyes of the Irishman. He's got his first podium for his new team. Jason O'Halloran there being congratulated probably by James Westmoreland's sister.
It is.
Michael Laverty, Tyco BMW, wins from Jason O'Halloran and Glenn Irwin. Luke Mossey finishes 4th by a whisker from Leon Haslam, snatches that on the line. Peter Hickman and James Ellison complete a trio of JG Speedfit Kawasaki's, which is far better a result than they promised earlier in the weekend. Tommy Bridewell, Bennett Suzuki 8th. Dan Linfoot for Honda Racing ends up 9th ahead of Lee Jackson in 10th. 11th place for Yuichi Kianari on the Bennett Suzuki, and Jakob Smertz having another good ride on the Smiths Racing BMW ahead of Christian Idden, who gets a paltry 3 points for his efforts today. Josh Hook gets those 2 precious points for Team WD-40, and Martin Jessup, local man on the ridersmotorcycles.com BMW, gets the final point in 15th place. The championship standings after that eventful outing look like this. Shane Byrne on 181 remains the championship leader by 15 points from Leon Haslam, who is 20 points ahead of Jason O'Halloran. Michael Laverty is 11 points further back in 4th. Dan Linfoot remains up there on 118. James Ellison has leapfrogged Christian Idden and Richard Cooper, and he drops into that crucial 6th place by just 2 points ahead of Christian. Richard Cooper in 8th, just a point further back. Luke Mossey and Peter Hickman rounding out the top 10, with Mossey, I believe, sneaking ahead of Peter Hickman. Tommy Bridewell 11th ahead of Glenn Irwin and Lee Jackson, John Hopkins, Danny Buchan, Stuart Easton, Yuichi Kianari, Billy McConnell, who once again saw his race fade away. Jakob Smertz now 19th ahead of Alistair Seeley.
Yeah, and that top 6 very much taking shape now, isn't it? Just 3 rounds to go before the showdown, and Michael Laverty has given himself every chance of being in that fight for the championship with victory in race 2 here at Thruxton. We'll be speaking to him.